You're listening to episode 617 of the Father Bills podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is entitled Forgiveness is a Form of Love, given on the 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time, 2017. A few years back, we installed some security cameras at the school. We now have 16 about the campus, so just smile when you walk around. But an interesting thing happened one evening, actually one time in the middle of the night. Two young adults came to the back part of the school and were rummaging around getting our pop cans that the kids have been collecting. And so the woman, she then puts them into a garbage container and takes the whole garbage container with her. And the other gentleman just takes a bag that he found that they collected, and they basically walk off. So I put all of this on the internet. Right? I mean, so I said, well, okay. So I put all that on the internet, and then we asked, did anybody know who these people were? Interesting comments. You know, from, well, I hope you get them, to, no, you should be kind to this person. They may have a difficult situation. Fast forward a little bit, not too long, maybe even the next week, that same woman arrives at the school and at the front desk with the money that she had gained by cashing in all those pop cans. Frankie, the principal at that time, then came to see her and said hello and told her just to keep it. And then we contacted our youth minister who came over, and she took this young lady out to lunch. I had been seeing somebody who was near death, and the family gave us $100 for a gift to the church. So as I then hear about this, then I go and meet this young lady with our youth minister at one of the restaurants where they had taken her, and we hear about her story. And she needed certain individually things, and I realized we can help her with those things, and I can make sure that our youth minister is there to make sure that it doesn't get spent differently. So sure enough, I give her $100. And Natalie then takes her to the DMV to get her ID card, which was stolen. And she wanted a bike, so we try to help her. You can find actually bikes very inexpensively through St. Vincent de Paul and other things. And thus was a merciful act done. Now I told her, I said, by the way, we are dropping our charges, because yes, what you've committed is a crime, and the police are looking for you. They have the same video we have. Do you know this fellow that was with you? Oh, I don't know who he was. I said, well, just tell this unknown person that if he does the same thing for you, we will also drop charges. About a month later, curiously enough, he comes to the school with a bag of pop cans with exactly the same story that she had. So, well, we didn't give him the same deal, but we did not file charges, and thus ended a very curious story of justice and mercy. Today we hear in the scriptures about forgiveness. You might remember the homilies I've given in the last several weeks, and they're all about love. Remember that we owe nothing to anyone except for love. And love is not this sentimentality that we see in cards and greeting cards and things, and nor is love self-seeking. The Greek word that's been used in the scriptures that we've been hearing is the word agape, which means sacrificial love. Today we are being called to exercise a kind of sacrificial love for others through forgiveness. Forgiveness is a form of sacrifice that is an unbloody but as difficult as if one was on a cross. Our love is to be unconditional. It is not, though, just a recommendation by Jesus to be so. It is a commandment. And so when we love, we should also be forgiving. Yet there are, fewer things harder to do than forgiving, especially when a great harm has been done unto ourselves. When asked, of course, we hear in the scriptures, how should we forgive someone 7 times? Jesus says no, 77 times. A turn of phrase that helps us understand that this is to be an illustration of what eternity will be. It is a sense of completeness. In other words, we are to forgive always. It's not a recommendation. It's a demand. Love demands things. This is a demand of God. But sometimes we are incapable of it. And my recommendation for myself and to all of us is when we know that we should be forgiving somebody and we cannot, to send it to prayer. And just, Lord, I can't forgive this person. I know I should. But I hold this resentment in my heart. Please remove it. I even recommend to people to actually pray for forgetfulness. Not Alzheimer's or dementia, but the kind of forgetfulness that then dislodges this memory that is there, constantly nagging at us. Only us, in fact, often. Nobody else knows. And we get eaten up from the inside out. I have found in my own life this to be a very potent tool for me to forgive. So it's important to remember, though, that forgiving does not mean absolving them of responsibility. We live in a day where we are all about rights and little about responsibility. The two go hand in hand. To forgive another is to recognize that they have done something wrong and are in need of forgiveness. Mercy does not cancel out justice or the need for conversion. It's a merciful thing to ask for forgiveness and to give forgiveness. It's also important to ask for conversion of heart. This last week, some people in the middle of the night went to St. Patrick at the Forest and graffitied up the side of the building. It says, "Smoke meth, hail Satan." And actually it was spelled Satan, as in, which is kind of funny, Not only was it bad art, it was bad spelling. There's a gentleman that's not part of our community. So, by the way, we put this also on social media. It's funny how I do that. It just happens. And I asked people to pray for the perpetrators of this vandalism. It's not art, it's vandalism. And before the day was through, someone, without asking, went over to the church and painted it all up, covered it completely up. It's not exactly the same color, but it's close. What an amazing thing. So on the same thread of the Facebook, I made sure that I thanked them. And I even direct messaged them saying, hey, thank you for doing this great work to help our community. It's something we should be very aware of just doing the right thing. And I asked, if there's anything we can do to cover your costs of the paint that you used or anything like that, let me know. Obviously, there's issues on why that's happened, but our response has to be both just and merciful. Why did they do that? Well, just the night before, there were some homeless people sleeping on the property, and we asked them to move on. And it wasn't to say a friendly moment. So there were some people that had cause to vandalize. So it's very likely that's who it was. But so instead of getting completely mad, I think, well, why are they there? How'd they get there? And I started thinking about the drug culture that is epidemic in that area. I've not seen so many homeless since the marijuana trade has become legal. It has brought into the culture of Illinois Valley something that is horrible. I mean, stumble onto a grape farm, what happens? Hey, you, get off here, right? Stumble onto a marijuana farm, you hear chick, chick. There were some firemen that recently were looking to help some community members to keep the brush away from their house, so that you need a safe zone around your house. And while they were doing it, one of their neighbors nearby shot at them, right? Because they have a marijuana farm. So I do not buy anything about this is a good idea. This trade is evil. and it's a cartel that's involved. So we need to pray for a change, a conversion of heart. And not that there's none here or in our, anywhere else. There's plenty of this going on all around. But this is something that is an unjust law because it does not do good for the community. All it's done is brought in a criminal element, and we need to pray it away and make a stand. There's no police much in Cave Junction. They now have a sheriff during the day. So now the citizens of Cave Junction have banded together to create their own little, let's say, observation force. How about that? And that's the persons that have gone in. They come to our parish, our mission church, St. Patrick, several times in the night to see what's going on. And I actually have no issue with someone who is, we've had them here where it's raining and it's cold and they need to get out of the cold and rain. And we've had them, I've actually said, okay, get over under this eave over here. But we have school and you have to be gone by 6 a.m. And they're generally, I've had a few experiences where they're very congenial. Unfortunately, when they don't become congenial and they're becoming belligerent, all bets are off. And I have no problem calling 911 for their good. There's something else going on. So in the Christian world, we are called to be people of mercy. But mercy, it's not a zero-sum game that we do more mercy and we have less justice. Those both go together. And this is the hard thing to say. What is the merciful thing to do? What is the just thing to do? We need to then bring this to prayer every time we encounter it, to act in merciful ways. Because ultimately, this is about conversion for people. Can we and how are we people entrusted to encourage others to conversion? I pray for those who are snared into the cartel, the drugs that are going on in the marijuana trade. Some of those are parishioners. Actually, a lot of them are parishioners. As long as we believe in the mercy of God, then there's hope for everyone. And I think of St. Paul as a good example of that. Think of what he did. He wasn't growing marijuana. He was helping kill people. And think about what's happened to him. So mercy is possible for even the greatest sinner. So I want to end with some questions. And they're questions I ask myself. Who in your life is love demanding you to forgive? Who in your life is love demanding you to forgive? For love's sake. Is it your spouse? Your parents? Might it be one of your siblings? How about a relative or a coworker? How about this? Do you need to forgive yourself? Sometimes I think that last one is the hardest. And it's when we don't forgive ourselves that we can't seem to forgive other people. Interesting. Remember what the scriptures tell us, what God has told us. We will be forgiven in the measure that we forgive others. See, once we forgive ourselves, we can be more open to the possibilities of mercy because we have received it. We know what it is. And we have this beautiful sacrament which helps us to forgive and be forgiven for love's sake. The sacrament of reconciliation. It has changed millions and millions and millions of lives. We're talking 2,000 years of this sacrament. I know for me that it has changed my life many times over. So I want to invite you not to wait. We have reconciliations every Saturday from now 4:30, I got this wrong already, from 3:30 to 4:30, because we have a Mass at 5, had to bump it. If you're at St. Patrick of the Forest, we show up half an hour early. So Mass is at 11, we have confessions at 10:30. And there's always an opportunity, call the office, and one of us priests would try to arrange our schedule to meet when it works for you to come to the office and go to confession. In fact, people say, well, but then they'll know I'm coming to confession. I'm like, well, you know what? Hundreds of people come through that door. It's like saying I'm going to the McDonald's. I don't want them to know that I'm ordering a fillet of fish. Trust me. We'll want to know why you're there, but you might even just say it's a personal thing. I'd rather not say. But you can just say for confession. And they go, okay, no problem. You won't go, really? What did you do? You won't hear that. Because if you do hear that, it's likely the last time you'll hear from that person. I will fire them. So trust me. Jesus wants us, and is actually demanding us, to be people of forgiveness. Because that is the call of love. And love is unconditional. And it is love that inspires us in return to love others. And when we love, we are set free. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. As always, if you want to contact me, you can go to my webpage, fatherbill.org, FRBILL.org, and there you can see my social media connections, and you can email me directly from the webpage. And until next time, may God bless you, and have a great week. Bye-bye.